What's up and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today I want to talk you through my favorite gear of 2025. And this is not stuff that released this year, this is just the stuff that I've been using that's been enabling me to reach my musical goals. I've kind of moved away from doing completely gear-centric content. That's something you may have noticed, but I can't deny that gear is a central part of how I spend a lot of my free time, and I've developed some opinions about some of it. So let's talk through it. The first one will likely be no surprise, so I'm not going to dwell on it or repeat myself too much, but that is the MPC One, which has absolutely become my main music production platform, period. Out of all the workstations I've tried, and I've been fortunate enough to try a lot of them, it is my go-to DAW in a box, being reasonably hands-on and pretty powerful. That's the case for all the standalone MPCs, but the one in particular fits exactly what I want for a compactness to spread outness ratio, if that makes sense. It just sits right here on my desk, it's right here right now, and I can take it places when I need to and keep it on my desk without it feeling like it's taking up too much space. I think in terms of its workflow quite a bit. I can just quickly, distraction-free, turn it on, load in some sounds, and immediately start going. And I've been having fun doing that on camera as of late. So if you've missed some of those beat-making videos, I'll put them along with a bunch of other stuff that's related to this video in a playlist that I'll link at the end. Part of that process has been getting used to the MPC 3 update. And while I totally understand if you don't want to upgrade, I'm not really trying to sell you on it because who cares? Use what you like. But for me personally, it's grown on me a lot. I initially kind of didn't understand why it was the way that it was, and I still don't quite use it the way that Akai seems to want you to use it, but the linear timeline's grown on me a lot, and I've also found myself using it for stuff that it maybe wasn't necessarily intended for. I am slowly rustling up a band where I'm the primary songwriter and the drummer, and we've got a bunch of electronic backing tracks to go with this kind of modern metal style that we're going for. And I've been using the MPC for that. So in the left channel, I've got the click and any guide stuff that we need that we can have in in-ears. And then on the right channel, and in fact in both channels, I've got the backing tracks that go to the PA. Doing this with the MPC 3 update has allowed me to stream those tracks from disk, allowing for faster load times, and it's allowed for me to loop sections of songs as I'm teaching people the new songs that we're working on, and that's been really, really useful. So I'm hoping that this doesn't ever crap out on me live. If it does, I'm sure you'll be hearing about it, but so far it's been working really nicely. For monitoring, we're using the X-Vive U4, and this is a wireless in-ear monitoring system that has been working pretty well so far. It's a wireless transmitter, and then 4 or more if you add them, receiver packs that you clip onto your belt or your guitar strap or whatever, and plug your in-ear monitors into. That so far has worked really well, really low latency. The only problem I did have with that system was a persistent hiss or whine, and I realized that was coming from a converter from 1/4 inch to XLR that the transmitter plugs into. It was just way too close to the other output cables. So I plugged a longer 1/4 inch to XLR cable and then moved the transmitter away from the output cables. Solved the hiss right away. Haven't had a problem with it since. I'm also using that, by the way, for my own personal solo live rig, especially for the rig involving the SPD-SX and my Roland MC-707, which is sitting back there. This is Gabe from the future. I filmed most of this before the announcement and release of the MPC Live 3, but that's not going to change my placement of the MPC One because I haven't had a chance to get my hands on an MPC Live 3 yet, and the feature that I wanted most on the MPC Live 3, which is clip launching, also was made available to all of the standalone MPCs for $100. And for me personally, that was absolutely worth it, although that might not be the case for everyone. Plus, even if I had gotten a chance to get my hands on an MPC Live 3 at this point, I probably wouldn't have had enough time with it to definitively call it a favorite piece of gear of the year because it's only been out for a month. So MPC One still stays winning, and I also want to treat this as a reminder that when new stuff is released, it doesn't necessarily make older stuff irrelevant. In fact, most of the time, it doesn't make older stuff irrelevant. Anyway, back to the video. I don't know why, but I've wanted an SPD-SX ever since I was a kid. And now that I have one, I'm pretty stoked about it. Like, I'm not even using it to its full capacity, but I've been really enjoying replacing a lot of the programmed drums of my MC-707 synthwave live set with drums that I'm playing live. It's made a huge difference in my performance, both for me as a performer, it's a lot more fun, and for the audience. They connect with it a lot better. It's a lot more obvious what I'm doing, and it makes everything more dynamic, because the drum part of a song can change the feel and energy level pretty dramatically. So me having the ability to do whatever I want and improvise a little bit and switch up the feel on the fly has made the sets a lot more dynamic and a lot more fun. It's a little bit risky because sometimes I'll find myself twisting knobs or switching scenes with one hand and playing drums with the other hand. And if I mess up, because I'm playing like really primary elements, these punchy kicks and snares and toms, if I mess up, you're really gonna notice. But that's live music, baby. Eventually, I want to figure out how to integrate the SPD-SX into my beloved dual Novation circuit setup, but I haven't really figured out exactly what form I want that to take yet. I'm still using my dual Novation circuit setup for live performance, by the way, and still loving it. Like, I've got a pretty well dialed in, very techno, industrial-ish live set that people still respond really well to. It's still really fun to play, but eventually I need to figure out a way to either kind of break out of that in order to integrate the SPD-SX, because it's very 4 on the floor and there's not a lot of drum variation there, or I need to just make something entirely new, and that'll take time. Eventually, though, that's something I'd like to do. The Novation circuits have changed my life, by the way. I think the product itself is almost incidental to this, because I think something else maybe would have stepped in and been that, but it happened to be the Novation circuits. From having me make the pivot into talking about music hardware on this channel at a time that was super lucky, because there wasn't a lot of music hardware content, and the Novation circuits are what got me from the audience side to the performing side in my local music scene. Like, I've performed for anywhere from like 10 people to like 80 people. And it's always a bit of a toss-up as to how an event is going to go, but people have been really receptive. I've been fortunate enough to have like strangers come up to me and say like, hey, that was so sick. I really enjoyed that. And being part of a local music scene, even if it's small, if it's enthusiastic, it's really rewarding. And that, and just doubling down on the stuff I really like, have been a big source of the fun I've been having with music stuff this year. I'm some of the busiest I've ever been, or at least the busiest I've been in a long time, but I'm also having some of the most fun with music that I've had in a long time. This is going to seem like a slight tangent, but this next thing is my actual favorite like music gear or tool of the year. And it's not what you'd expect. This is maybe might seem like a bit of a flex, but for me personally, this was worth it. I got custom molded earplugs, and they just pop in really easily. They're molded to the shape of my ears, so these have been a game changer for me personally. People pay way too little attention to hearing protection at live shows. I very often see people either without hearing protection at all, which to me is psychotic, or with like the foam earplugs just very loosely in their ears. They're not doing much. I can guarantee you that. The audiologist I talked to told me that in order to properly use the foam earplugs, because based on my research, they actually do the most decibel reduction of any earplugs out there, or at least any of the ones readily available. In order to use them properly, you've got to roll them up, pencil thin. This is not medical advice, by the way. I'm just like an idiot. And then you pull your ear back to straighten out your ear canal because it's curved in there. And then you stick that in until like it's in farther than you think it needs to be. That will muffle the sound enough, but unfortunately it will muffle the sound, not just reduce the decibel level. So the nice thing about these earplugs is that they're filtered. So they do a good amount of volume reduction, but still let some of the highs pass through for a much more balanced sound. So I never really feel sad that I have earplugs in or feel like I'm missing out, because I'm not. Everything sounds great. In fact, it sounds better because I don't have a ton of ear fatigue kicking in. I still have to be a bit careful because like, especially metal and hardcore can get really freaking loud, and occasionally I'll find myself having to move back from the speakers a bit, but I don't have to worry as much about like maintaining a proper seal between the earplug and my ear because they're molded to my ears. And I'd been having problems with like off-the-shelf concert earplugs with me leaving concerts still having a bit of ringing, and this basically cut that out of my life. So protect your ears. Loud, sustained sound over time will do permanent damage, even if it's imperceptible in the moment. If you have ringing after something, damage has occurred. And at this point, I have like a tiny bit of ringing in complete silence that flares up very occasionally, but I still have like the hearing equivalent of 20/20 vision, and damn it, I want to keep it that way. Moving on from live stuff and back into production for a bit, I have been having a lot of fun with the Ableton Move as of late. It's still got some hit or miss elements of it. I've still got mixed feelings about it, but I've been enjoying it. It's very fluid, very immediate. I like the sleek design quite a bit, and that is in part what keeps me coming back to it. That, and I paid for the damn thing and want to make content about it, so there's probably some sunk cost fallacy in there, but regardless, I'm enjoying it. There are also a couple of software tools I've been really enjoying it lately. The first one is Synplant 2. And this has been great, especially for making weird noises and weird little percussion synthy loops that I can then develop into a whole song. For the latter thing, I actually did a guest spot on a Bo Beats video. That'll be in the playlist. I'll link at the end. So I'm not going to belabor it here, but this is what that sounds like. You'll see people talk about Synplant 2 as an AI synth, and I think that's a bit of a misnomer because at its core, it's a dual operator FM synthesizer, if I recall correctly. It does use an algorithm to resynthesize sounds, but whatever AI it's using, I think is probably like one of the only ethical uses of AI in like a music production tool, if I had to guess. So I enjoy it for recreating sounds and then immediately making them just completely unrecognizable, making weird stuff, making iterative stuff. It's a fun time. The other software tool I've been enjoying a lot lately is Odeholm Drums, and I think I'm saying that correctly. Apologize if not. Buster Odeholm is a really well-known producer in like modern metal and metalcore, and his drum tones are freaking massive, hyper real even. And I love that sound. It's very in your face, very punchy, very aggressive, but still clean, if that makes sense. So he released a drum VST, and I've been using that for our metal recordings and demos, and the thing sounds freaking crazy. So, what do we learn from all this? For me, it's that I tend to favor stuff that feels a lot like a playable instrument and offers a good amount of flexibility. Emphasizing that in the tools I choose to use and pick up has really served me well over the past year in furthering my both production and performance goals. And if you'd like to see what that looks like in action, you can check out this playlist up over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video in a little bit.